Hello, I'm Jens Manton Garcia, postdoctoral researcher from the University of Cologne in the Institute of Translational Research. And today I will share with you some basics on clinical trials for and with antifungals. These are my conflicts of interest, which are not related to the presentation today. And I will start providing some basic aims of the presentation I'm sharing with you. First of all, the main goal is to present some fundamental principles of clinical trials in antifungal drug development. Afterwards, I want to explore with you some specific challenges in trials involving patients with antifungal infections. And finally, I want to open a discussion, probably in the comments, on best practices and opportunities to improve trial design, recruitment, and analysis. The first question is why do we urgently need new antifungals and therefore the associated clinical trials? I have raised three main concerns, which are basically the rise in invasive fungal infections, especially among immunocompromised populations. Traditionally, these have been hematological malignancy patients, also transplant recipients, ICU patients, and in some settings also uncontrolled diabetic patients. But lately, other aspects like viral infections, chronic diseases, or the immunosenescence associated to increased AIDS have increased some concern. Additionally, the rising of antifungal resistance, in some cases due to intrinsic resistances like Candida auris or Lomentospora prolificans, but also the acquired resistances like azole resistance in Aspergillus fumigatus or fluconazole or echinocandin resistance in Candida glabrata or Candida parapsilosis. Finally, there is also an evident limited treatment options. Basically, we have three main drug classes like azoles, echinocandins, and polyols. Regarding antifungal resistance, one could see in this slide in the right section of the screen how in some species or in some genera, like it is the case of the Aspergillus, some species are intrinsically resistant to certain antifungal. And the reason why we do need new antifungals, we can see one of the reasons in the left section of the screen. This is a screenshot table from the Global Guideline on Rare Mold Diagnostic and Treatment Management, and we can see how the green squares, where there is a strong recommendation for the management, or in this case, the treatment of the respective pathogens, is very limited. And this is based on the lack of very detailed and specific evidence, and it is associated partially also in the lack of clinical trials. Focusing on the limited treatment option, we have two sides of the same coin in this slide. In the left section, we can see how since 1950 until the current date, most of the antifungals have been developed, meaning that for around 15 antifungals, we have needed more or less 70 years, 70, 80 years. However, we can be optimistic as if we look in the right section of the screen, we can see how in the current days we are observing new families or new classes like triterpenoids, also orotomites, and new antifungals within the same or within the existing classes like echinocandins or triazoles. Going to basics or to very basics on clinical trials, we have here the description of the four phases from 1 to 4. Each of these, they also have some additional subphases, and we can see them here a bit clearer. If we start in green, we see phase 1, that it's the one related to safety, phase 2 in purple to efficacy, phase 3 in blue confirmation, and phase 4 in orange follow-up. Each of these phases goes including an increasing number of patients. Regarding also the fundamentals of clinical trials, here in this nice picture or table from a recent review, we can see those antifungals that are currently under development or in some cases already available for use, we can see how in the first column we have the substance, afterwards in the second column the latest study phase, and then we have the third and the fourth columns that make reference to the current situation in the United States first and in the European Union later. We can see how actually in some cases like ibrexafungerp GERB or oteseconazole, the status, even if of course it's the same drug, depends also on the country. And who is involved in clinical trials? Well, here there is a long list of people involved, from the principal investigator to monitors, biostatisticians, or also patients and advocates, which in the last years have gained relevance. And as you can see, basically we are speaking in antifungal clinical trials about a very multidisciplinary work. Regarding common trial designs for antifungals, definitely we have the randomized controlled trials, which is the perfect situation, but we have to keep in mind that sometimes in the case of invasive fungal infections, this might not be an option, as having a control group not receiving a treatment is definitely unethical. And therefore, many trials adopt non-inferiority designs, basically comparing an already existing drug or a set drug for a certain fungal infection compared to a new treatment options. And the target population, and here we are speaking about a limitation, and the clinical trials are limited and vulnerable, and therefore makes more complicated to run clinical trials for antifungals. Here we have graphic descriptions of the non-inferiority I was speaking about. And some key challenges regarding the clinical trial and in antifungals. Basically, the patient recruitment and also the selection of the right endpoint. Regarding the patient recruitment, it is very important to mention that in many cases there is a limitation on the diversity, focus on ethnic, sex, or age. And other key challenges in antifungal clinical trials are limitations in diagnostics, drug distribution, immune dysfunction, patient population representativity, or, as I mentioned, representation of special populations. Here we have three very good examples in an experience from my own institution and in this publication by my colleague Rosanna Sprute. We can see three trials and the situation on patient recruitment. From the three trials, this is the case one, of 154 patients screened between 2007 and 2015, only 2 patients were ultimately enrolled, and the reasons for non-enrollment were inability or unwillingness to provide informed consent, but also hepatic or renal dysfunction, prior antifungal therapy for longer than 48 hours, alternative diagnosis, use of prohibited medications according to the clinical trial protocol, pregnancy, breastfeeding, or high QT prolongation risks. In trial 2, similar reasons for non-recruitment, and finally, out of 89 patients screened, none was included into analysis. And in trial 3, out of 13 patients screened, again, no patient was managed to be included. And focusing on the right endpoint, well, we have this nice publication from 2008 where it's described in a general basis how the patients may have complete or partial response, stable disease, or progression of the fungal infection. But we are also in a situation that there are specific situations or specific classifications based on the specific species like Aspergillus or other filamentous fungi, Candida species, or endemic mycosis like Histoplasma or Coccidioides. It is also common to choose as an endpoint the length to response or to death, or also mortality and the more complicated attributable mortality. However, we are in a situation where there have been recent advances and there are also future directions. We have global initiatives such as the Fungiscope Global Registry, also international research societies like ESHAM, the ECMM, European Confederation of Medical Mycology, and also ESCMID's fungal infection study group, which are advancing in collaborative research and outreach. Also, we must speak about the industry-academic partnership and multi-center consortia, which are crucial for conducting large, robust studies. Real-world data from registries like Fungiscope, complementing traditional trials and advocating for real-life evidence. And also, in the situation of the artificial intelligence, we can use the associated tools and therefore implement predictive models that can be tested and improve the trial recruitment by identifying high-risk patients earlier. So with these, the key messages and takeaways are basically three. The first one is that still there is an urgent need for the development of new antifungal therapies. Second, that we do need well-designed trials, and for that we need clear endpoints and standardized diagnostics and ethical designs. And this success depends on global collaboration and multidisciplinary work. And if we go in this direction, we may be able to have better clinical trials and new antifungals eventually. Thank you very much and see you next time.